another episode of the Next Fix podcast. And I'm talking to my new friend Randy here. And, you know, success stories are cool, but we all want the comeback story. That's what we're all about. That's what sells tickets to blockbuster movies, man. And so I was curious if Randy had one, and he has given me some hints to the fact that he very much so has a comeback story. And so, Randy, I want to say cordially, thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for sharing your time. You're pretty much like a rock star, brother. And so I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And so you're so well put together and doing all this good work for other people, which is so nice. But we want to know about what was before that, right? You know, what did it look like when the shit hit the fan for you, man?
Yeah, so I'm not a comeback story. I'm a documentary series. I'm a regular series
Right.
of comeback stories, right? Because I started out, I was a teenage alcoholic and teenage drug addict. I made my way through middle school selling dope, kind of made some poor decisions along the way.
But the entrepreneurial spirit was there, huh?
It was there. I'm just finishing my 16th book, and I was writing this morning in the chapter of how lessons I learned selling dope, which I still think helped me as an entrepreneur to this day. And
For the record, though, we're not saying that's the path. right? Like, get yourself a big bag and then you chop it up and then, you know.
Well, yeah, because it worked great until it didn't. It worked great until I ended up in jail at 15 years old for burglary and armed robbery. So that's one of the ways I pay back is when I'm in town, I'm doing a speech for a company or organization. If there's a halfway house or a jail or somewhere where I might be able to speak to at-risk kids and share my story, I do that, right? And
sure. Well, what did that I want to know, man, like when you see burglary and armed robbery, like paint the picture for me. Like you're 15? I mean, what did that look like?
I was in a poor family, had a single mom who raised 3 kids by herself, and we were poor. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. My mom shared a bedroom with my sister. My brother and I shared a bedroom. 4 of us shared 1 bathroom. We had the old beat-up station wagon. We could go anywhere in the world we wanted for vacation as long as it was the Wisconsin Dells. Where we went, because I was raised in Madison, and I was going to school with these kids. They'd turn 12 and their parents would buy them a mini bike, and they'd turn 14 and they'd buy them a motorcycle, and they turned 16 and they'd get a new Impala, and they went to France and Germany and Australia and, you know, Japan or whatever for vacation. And they had new cars and they had their own bedroom and they had their own bikes and games. And I felt so, and I'm on the spectrum, which back then we didn't know that didn't exist, those terms. Back then they just said, he's a weird kid, you know, he doesn't fit in. But I was poor, hated being poor. And I thought, I'm just gonna equalize things. I'm going to take it into my own hands. And that led to burglary and armed robbery.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, man. Having that envy and having that envy in a not developed mind, right? You know, the maturity that wasn't there for you, right? Because you're a kid. I mean, yeah. And then making some poor choices. That can happen, man. It happened to me too. You know, and I was looking left and right, and I was like, okay, I could sell some drugs. And the odd part was that my mom actually sold drugs too. But anyways, so you got into a pickle, right? But you got locked up. What did that look like for you? I mean, you're 15. I'm sure they didn't throw the book at you. I mean, did you see it as another shot at life, or were you just like a knucklehead and it didn't sink in quite yet?
I did see it as another shot in life because it was, I don't know, 5-6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks before I got to trial. And I'm sitting in the cell. There's a steel door with one of those little windows at the top with the glass with the wires that run through it to be anti-break glass or whatever. And there's a clock outside the hallway. So I'm just basically sitting on my cot watching tick, tick, tick of the clock. And I did, that's a good opportunity to rethink your life. And
Mm.
I did. And I had a saint who was a public attorney, public defender who represented me. I had a judge who believed, hey, maybe this kid deserves another chance. I had friends and family that loved me and wanted to support me. And I did. I saw it as a new chance and I took it.
Wow. I mean, that's a blessing. And I can tell you, man, like I get kind of envious when I hear about it clicking for other people like early on, because I just like, what the hell's wrong with my brain? It just didn't see that. But that's ideal, right? I mean, it's ideal in that you could at least see the silver lining. So, what really developed as a result of that? Did you like just forego and get rid of all the dope from that point forward? Or I mean, how did that look? I mean, you're not even in a position at that age to really abandon your friends, right? You see them every day.
Yeah, I was in a position, I made that decision to change those people I was hanging out with because I knew that was going to lead to a dead end. And I still drank until I was 20. I quit on my 20th birthday, which
Interesting.
was 46 years ago. I haven't had a drink in that time. And I just remember driving to a party and I was driving and I had my left arm out the window and I was just looking at the grass alongside the car. And it dawned on me like, there shouldn't be grass there. There should be like a road, And then
Right.
I looked up and it was the apartment building of the party that I was going to. And I was about to drive into somebody's patio door into their apartment. And that was the night I said, you know what? This drinking thing, it doesn't work for me. And I'm never going to drink again.
Man, I mean, I'm curious. Like, you're 20 years old, you're getting rid of the sauce. And I'm like thinking to myself, you're rather well put together. I mean, you're making some bad moves at that point, but to catch it early on, again, that's a massive blessing in itself. However, you did share something with me that maybe the meth kind of stuck around for you a little bit. Like, I mean,
What happened after clean and sober, quit smoking? I smoked cigarettes for a while. I was a 2 to 3 pack a day smoker. So I quit those. And then I became a very health conscious person because I was very sickly as a kid. And then I was really sick as an adult. Part of that whole scenario was I moved out of the house when I was 15. And
okay,
because, my poor mother, you can imagine what she was going through trying to raise me. And I just said, I want to live by myself. I want my own place. I'll decide when I go to bed and when I get up and she was like, okay, go ahead. Figuring he'll be back in 3 days, but I never came back. Right. Because
wow,
I just went out into the world, made my way. And I learned the electric company doesn't care if you don't pay the bill. They just turn the lights off and your shit in the refrigerator melts, the ice cream melts and the meat goes bad and they don't care. And if you don't pay the rent, the landlord will put a 3-day eviction notice on. And so I was, hand to mouth like that, but I was still working and I was like, had taken this new opportunity to remake my life. I lied about my age because there was a Red Lobster restaurant about to open and they were hiring waiters. And I was a cook. I'd started as a dishwasher in a pancake house. And then I was a cook. And I thought the waiters made the real money because they made tips, right? So I was 16 at that point, but I could kind of had a mustache going already. And so I looked older and I said I was 19 and I got that job as a waiter. And
which I don't feel like that's these days. I don't think that's even a possibility. But man, I'm just thinking back to when those kinds of moves were like possible, right? Like you could like lie about your age and get into the military. You could lie about whatever and cross the border. Like all that kind of stuff. It seems like it's disappeared. Like everything's so digital and transparent. And,
everything's digital, whereas nothing was digital then.
Right.
And so when Red Lobster opened, I worked at this pancake house for a absolute jerk who everybody hated working for him. So of course, when Red Lobster started running ads and they were interviewing people, half the restaurant went there. I didn't know that. I show up for my interview and it's with a lady and she says, "Oh my God, it was called Mr. C's Pancake and Steakhouse." She's like, "Oh my God, another one from Mr. C's. I don't even dare call them for a reference because we hired like 6 of their people already." So that's where they might have found out because I hadn't lied about my age there,
Sure.
but it was, because of that, they didn't call. So then I'm working there. I get a chance to work at Howard Johnson as a graveyard shift. So now I'm working 2 jobs. I'm waiting tables and then I'm cooking graveyard at Hojo's. And then they made me a manager trainee and then an assistant manager. And then I was literally managing a restaurant when I was late 16, almost 17 years old,
That's
because
crazy.
I had to keep the same age I told Red Lobster. And they knew I worked at Red Lobster and I served alcohol. So I must be so they never thought anything, right? Those were the days back then. You could do that.
Right. Right. Right.
I remember how I started drinking in the bowling alley, right? There was a bartender and I would go in, you could go in and like order Cokes and stuff because it wasn't quite like today where, it was a bowling alley. So, and I just told him, 18 more days, I'm going to be able to come in here and drink. He said, "Oh, good for you, and then a couple of days, hey, 16 more days, 13 more days. And then I built it up. And then I walked in on that day. Today's the day. He said, "Sit down. First drink is on me."
That's so, what a plan. You're a methodical kind of a person. I'm so intrigued by your mind, completely different than mine. Like you're delaying gratification and a master plan to begin drinking underage. Man. And then you sold
Well,
it. You sold it too,
there's
right?
two, there's 2 parts to that. All right, Ryan. Part number 1 is, yes, because I am on the spectrum, as we now know. Yes, I have a brilliant, analytical, logical, rational way of thinking, and I'm really good at that, even at a young age, right? And the second way is you can watch Meryl Streep and whatever actress or actor you see on, at the Oscars, and none of them can act as good as an addict because
Ooh,
as addicts, we are professional liars and
yeah,
we have to lie all day, every day, why we're missing work, why we forgot the birthday, why we didn't show up for this, why we're too sick for that, why we really need this money. And so unless those people on the Oscars are addicts, they can't compete with the acting skills of a functioning addict. That's
sure.
my opinion.
That is unique and also very powerful because I agree with you. And the only thing that would get in the way of an addict's story, or because it's not a lack of conviction, but sometimes if their urgency is too much, right, the story starts to fall apart. Like, well, why do you need the money right now? And it's like, well, and then like they start running out of steam because they need it right now. But you're so right, man. I pulled it off. I couldn't tell you how many times. Like, and that's again, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here because you're the entrepreneur whisperer, right? And so I believe wholeheartedly that if an addict or former addict is able to capture the tenacity that they had when they were pursuing their substance of choice or whatever it is, if they could harness that tenacity and move it towards something valuable, like running a business, whatever it is, they cannot be stopped. They cannot be, there is no competition that exists that could compete with somebody that has that level of tenacity that an addict has. I mean, look at the ingenuity that addicts are able to do. They strip copper from wire to
Yeah.
go down and get some meth. It's unmatched. It's unreal. It's so interesting that you say that. But you didn't get to the meth part. I still want to know.
So I'm clean and sober for decades. Now I'm 50 years old. I'm a gay man living in South Beach, which in that moment in time is the gayest place on the planet.
Still is pretty rather gay, but like, what time period is this? I miss it. So
This is 16 years ago. So we're
16
talking, what, 2010?
2010, and you're 50.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and so meth is decimating the gay community at that point. It's just totally pandemic level proportions. And every time I'm hooking up with somebody, every time I'm on a dating app or whatever, hey, do you P&P? Hey, do you party? Hey, and I don't know, after like 6 months of this, I'm like, well, what the hell? Let me just try it out. Let me see what it's all about, because everybody is doing
Right.
it.
Right.
Right. And I'm cocky at this point because I've been clean and sober for decades. And I didn't even like, probably the hardest addiction to quit up to that point was cigarettes. And believe me, I did cocaine, I did crack, I did LSD, I've done heroin, mushrooms, everything, right?
Right.
Onto the tents and it's, what do you call the, where you go in the tent and you hallucinate.
Ayahuasca?
Yes. Did
Right.
that way back in the day before it was, it's trendy now because of Tim Ferriss and everybody on their
Sure.
podcast. But I was doing that when it wasn't trendy, and I didn't have a problem quitting really any of that. The drinking was, and when I finally quit smoking, it was the same thing. It was cold turkey. I remember I'm sitting in my pickup truck. I'm at a railroad crossing waiting for the train to go by. I'm hacking. I'm like 30 something years old. I'm hacking like I'm a 80-year-old man with emphysema. I say, I have to quit this now. So I crumpled up the pack of cigarettes and I threw it out the window. And I promised myself, I'm going to go pick up 10 pieces of litter to, pay penance because I threw these cigarettes out the window, but I cannot have them in my life. I can't have them on my body. I can't have them close to me. But I could. So I was really cocky from that. Like, okay, try this Tina stuff, I'm sure with my willpower now, everything. But I got to tell you, that was and is to this day the most difficult addiction I ever fought, because it changes the chemistry of your brain. There's so much social connection stuff with it. If you're like me, who is autistic and has social anxiety and trouble relating to people, like if you put me on stage in front of 10,000 people, I'm not even nervous. I mean, I don't even have like, what are little butterflies in no, because it's my stage. I own it. I know exactly what I want to say. I know what that audience needs to hear from me. I know what's coming next. I'm not nervous. But I'm the kind of guy, if I'm in an elevator and you're going to start small talking with me, I don't even, or I'm dating someone and they're like, come and meet my friends or meet my parents. I would rather stick a fork in my eye than do that, right?
Okay.
But with crystal meth, you're just total uninhibited, melts all that away. So I think it's because of that, but that was harder for me than cocaine or heroin or anything.
You know what I've noticed in my travels, right? There's something, right, in the party scene, right? Some people just click with certain things, right?
Right.
Certain substances. So like everybody's dabbling and and you seem like you're not a discriminatory drug user, right? So there's a myriad of substances left and right. But I would see every once in a while, there'd be one person that something did it a little extra for them, right? You see like a
Right.
twinkle in their eye and you're like, oh shit, like that person really likes meth or that person really likes cocaine or whatever. And so like there are certain like, substances that it just clicks on too many levels for somebody, and then it becomes the thing. It becomes what they are not able to stop because it just clicks too many of those combinations in their brain, and they
Yeah.
like it just a little too much, right? And
Right.
so for me, it was like opiates. It just hit me on all levels. And then, of course, booze later on when I couldn't get opiates. Cocaine, though, I could take it or leave it. I could do it.
The same. It's like with cocaine, it burned my nose so much. I'm like, I don't really. And the other one that just shocked me was crack. I could smoke crack, and I was like, this is it? What's the big deal?
Right.
But there's other people, crack has completely destroyed their life, or
Sure.
cocaine has completely destroyed their life.
So you're in South Beach. Now you clearly like meth a little too much, or maybe a little bit more than the people around you. So what as a result of that added addiction, what ended up happening for you in your life?
Well, it was destroying my health. And I remember going to my doctor, and I'd been HIV positive since 2006 and with undetectable viral load, great health, whatever. And then it just kept getting worse and worse. And finally, I was in there, and he said, listen, if you're messing with Tina, I can't help you. I
Mm,
want you to know that. You're HIV positive. I'm HIV positive. That's what he told me. I'm HIV positive. I treat HIV positive people every day. You can live a long, healthy, happy life. But if you're going to mess with Tina, I can't save you. You're going to die. And that was, I really needed to hear that. And I was just at a place in my life where I just needed to reinvent myself again. I had been thinking about doing a sabbatical, and I decided to do the sabbatical. And I went to Australia, where I had kept an apartment because I did a lot of work in Asia. And so I just went to Australia for 2 years, where I had no connections, no dealers, and deathly afraid. Like, if I go and buy drugs in a foreign country and I get caught, this could be so bad. So I was almost 2 years on that. So that was to, because my experience of meth was, it takes 8 months to a year to get it out of your system. That, like, literally 6 months after your last hit, it becomes so overpowering physiologically, not just psychologically. There's a physical something, I don't know what, it was in your colon, in your bloodstream, it was particles in your liver, I don't know what, and then it gets recirculated again.
right. Right.
But being there for, almost 2 years, that was the chance to really completely detox my body. I was doing, like, Thai massages there are like $60 for a 90-minute massage or something, and 40 bucks for an hour or something. So I was doing that like 7 days a week, which is really good for detox as well. And just, and then I really, and I replaced meth with working out. That, okay, I'm just going to substitute a positive addiction for a negative one. And I got in really the best shape of my life.
That's so interesting because I'm kind of on that bandwagon too. Moderation's not on the table for us. It's just not an option. So what do you do when you're not able to just moderately navigate your life? Well, if you're going to be addicted to something, it might as well be something useful, something good. And so there's exercise. I've been there myself, and I'm looking around, and if somebody were to say to me, well, that's unhealthy, like how much you work out, I'm like, well, you should have seen what I was doing before. I'll take this any day. So
How old are you now?
well, I'm 44.
40? Good for you.
Yeah. And so I believe wholeheartedly that you could be addicted to cool stuff, and addicts have made the world go round, right? They have influenced the world in a positive way. Steve
Right.
Jobs, I say this all the time. Mother Teresa was an addict. She was addicted to something that was so noble, nobody could fault her for it. But that woman put herself in harm's way many times. And there's all kinds of people that change this planet in a positive way. And the people closest to them would say that they're addicted in one way or another to either innovation or business or entrepreneurship, whatever it may be, but it beats the hell out of crack every day.
Right.
That's just that I feel that's great. So you went to Australia and then you kicked the meth. And so now, right, and the way that you deliver that message, the way that you delivered both of those time periods in your life when substances were an issue, I think it's so cool because you deliver it very cool and transparently and very honestly. And I think it's something to really take note of, that it was one thing when you're younger and then another when you're older, but it still came and bit you in the ass there for a little while. And clearly you're still here able to tell us, and you're also obviously very successful. So what are the addictions these days? Like what ended up being the buckets that you put all this energy into?
Coaching, really. At my essence, I'm a writer, right? I told you I'm just finishing book number 16, but I'm coaching through my writing. I write books on entrepreneurship, success, and prosperity. This next book is just totally about prosperity. I'm coaching because I have a coaching program called Breakthrough You, and it's just me coaching people on how, and pretty much my tribe, if you will, is, so I speak, I write, I have the coaching program, I have my own podcast, my own blog, but my tribe is entrepreneurs. That's who resonate with me. I resonate with them. And so I'm coaching them on how to be healthy, happy, and prosperous. I don't want to say nobody, I don't want to speak in absolute, but there's not a lot of people that are coaching the holistic approach of health, happiness, and prosperity. There's a lot of how to 10x your business, how to 100x your business, how to 1000x your business, and the people who go through those programs usually end up coming to me and say, okay, I'm flying private. I want to do $40 million this year. I got 7 Ferraris, 2 Lambos, 8 this, 2 that. I go to all the trendy places. I popped a pill in Ibiza. Blah, 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 blah. And my marriage is a fucking disaster. Or my kids haven't spoke to me for 3 years. Or, I'm going to do $70 million this year, but I may not be alive to see it next year because I'm 2 cheeseburgers away from a heart attack.
Sure.
And that's what brings them to me at the high level, right? Because I have like the first levels for people who they're just riddled with poverty consciousness. They don't know the principles of prosperity. They've never read Think and Grow Rich or As a Man Thinketh or The Richest Man in Babylon or any of that. It's all Greek to them. And they're just riddled with negative programming. Money is bad. Rich people are evil. It's spiritual to be poor. And they're imprinted with all those negative limiting beliefs that they don't even know are there. So they're what I call the apprentice level. And then I have a middle level, and that's for people and that's where I get so many podcasters, authors, coaches, consultants. They're out there, they're hustling, they're doing good things, they're building up, but they just can't quite break that $1 million a year income. Right. So that's the middle group. And we call that the alchemy group because it's all about transformation. And then it's the top level group is the anarchist level. And that's the ballers. Money isn't the issue.
Right.
They're so successful. It's not always money. Sometimes they're professional athletes or they're politicians or they're just people who have really, achieved a pinnacle of success in what they're doing, but they don't have a prosperous life because of addictions, or they've destroyed their relationship, or they've destroyed their health, or of course, all three. You and I were talking before the lights went on about how much addiction is in the entrepreneurial space, huge levels of it. So that's what that's my new addiction is coaching people for prosperity. And really, all my books are about success or business or prosperity in some way. And my podcast is about that. And my work is about that. So and you teach what you need to learn. It keeps me
Right.
focused on my own self-development, focused on my own personal growth, focused on, hey, I got to model this behavior. You can't, fool these people. You can't bullshit them that if you're an addict, they're going to know you're an addict. They're going to see through you in
Right.
2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I can't talk about how I'm healthy and, if I'm not. They're going to see through that in 2 seconds, right? Relationships, they're going to see through that in 2 seconds because when you have prosperity consciousness, it affects everything you say, everything you do, every way you act. I mean, because the world takes its cues how to treat you by how you treat yourself.
Sure. Sure.
The world takes its cues on how to talk to you by the way you talk to yourself.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I don't.
you bring something up and it hits home for me because it's something that my wife and I have been working on. She's from the Philippines and they value humility. It's
Yes.
important and there's hierarchy. And so, you bless to people that are older than you pay respects. And I think that that's awesome. I think it's great. However, I've noticed sometimes she'll kind of steal her own thunder because she doesn't want to ever come across as boastful. And so we've made leaps and bounds of progress of just removing the unnecessary negativity or the unnecessary negative language. We don't need to take ourselves down a notch. There's no real need for that. I understand, or I've grown to understand. I've grown to understand like why that like why it's coming. It's not intentionally to become negative in any way. It's just kind of like, it's kind of a battle against, being arrogant, which is not good. But yeah, the way that we speak to ourselves is exactly how the world mirrors everything to us, right? So if we do kind of put a cap on ourselves with a poverty mindset, that is most certainly what you'll get from the world. And so I can see it. I know that it's present in myself as well, right? There are glass ceilings that I have put on my own world just because I've unknowingly had these limiting beliefs that have been installed. And so that's awesome work. So when you're talking to
By the way,
somebody,
let me jump in on something you just said
yeah,
because I've been to many, many countries in Asia very frequently, done a lot of work there. My books are big sellers there, so I get a lot of requests for speeches there and stuff. I think my first book, the first language we sold was Korea,
okay,
right? And now, I mean, Korean, Japanese, just all over. And then a lot of English stuff in Singapore and Malaysia and places like that. But there is this beautiful part of Asian culture, which is that respect, that devout respect they have for institutions and elderly people, for example. And there's the insidious side of that, which says you need to snuff out your candle some because you don't want to appear too egoistic. You don't want to appear arrogant. It's impolite.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
in Australia, they call it the tall poppy syndrome, which is, the tallest flowers are the ones that get cut first. So keep your head below the cubicle,
right,
don't make waves. And that shit is so destructive, so anti-poverty. I'm sorry, anti-prosperity, because it's just poverty consciousness. It's limiting yourself, holding yourself back, holding yourself down. Even, I mean, I see people self-sabotage themselves because they got to a point that they make more money than their parents made at that
mm,
same age, right? Or even their current age. And now you don't see that so much today because this is the first generation. The Gen Z people are the first generation in a long time. They're not doing as well as their parents did. They can't buy homes. They're riddled with student debt. They're riddled with credit card debt. because they haven't learned. That's where my work is, working with those people. Like, you gotta learn the fucking money game. This is a game. It's stacked against you. You have no idea what the rules are, and they're going to make you an indentured servant for the rest of your life if you don't figure it out, right? And so that's what happens with that Asian culture of be respectful. That's an institution. It's always been done that way. This is the way we do it here. This is our culture. This is our pattern of behavior. And you got to be willing to question the premise, and you got to be willing to say. So what happens is, so now this guy is out. His father was working in a coal mine in West Virginia, black lung, and he never made $40,000 a year his whole life. And now this 24-year-old son gets an offer for some, Merrill Lynch office in New York City at $100,000 a year with a pension plan and a health insurance plan and whatever. And he blows it up, and he doesn't even know he's blowing it up, but he blows it up because he feels he's been programmed he's not worthy by organized religion or the government or a gazillion other places. Or he's got this subconscious guilt, which he doesn't even know is there, because his father, the salt of the earth, the idol of his life, never made that kind of money in his best year. And it just came so easy to this son or daughter that their guilt causes them to self-sabotage.
Yeah, and that, to your point, we don't see it happening, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot. The more I learn about it, the more I realize how common it is that we just, I'm guilty of it too. I hit a certain point, and it's like I'm like, almost like give the money away, right?
It is.
And I'm like, it's just like burning a hole in my pocket. I'm like, it's like we have a thermostat, And so when
It is. It is a thermostat. Don't go past here, or the self-sabotage kicks in. Particularly if, good book for you, your wife, both, anybody watching or listening. It was a couple of my books ago. It's called Radical Rebirth.
Radical Rebirth.
Radical Rebirth. How to kill off the old you and create the new one. And when you read that book, you will simply be astounded when I show you the negative limiting programming that you're getting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the government, from organized religion, from the education system, and from what I call the data sphere: TV, radio, blogs, podcasts, social media, the internet in general. And I break it down, all the important foundational beliefs in life: God and religion, marriage and relationships, work and money, or work and success, health and wellness. And I just show how most of us were programmed with those core beliefs before you were 8 years old.
Sure.
Yeah. And so if you have the belief that, like for me, for the first 30 years of my life, I kept blowing up everything because I was riddled with the subliminal programming, subconscious programming, that money is bad, rich people are evil, it's noble or spiritual to be poor, to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be a bad parent. To build a successful company, you have to exploit people and pillage the environment. There is so much fucking negative programming that, in the book, I break down literally whatever your generation is, from baby boomer to Gen Z. Okay,
Right.
here's
The
this
times
generation.
change.
Here's the TV shows that are the hit shows of your generation. Here's the hit movies. Here's the plays or the operas or the whatever. Now let's look at the programming. Oh, you're a millennial. Oh, The Simpsons. What's the programming around Mr. Burns? Scrooge McDuck. What's the programming? I'll take the shows that you watched when you were 6 years old, 5 years old, and
Right.
the ones
Right.
you're still watching today. So if you're today, if you're a Gen Z, what are you watching? You're watching House of the Dragon, which I love. I love the show.
Right, right. I
Can't
love
wait for the
everything you
new
mentioned.
season.
I know, but it
But
is
when
doing
I watch it, I've got enough self-awareness now that I'm saying, look at the way they're presenting wealthy people in this show. You can watch Succession and say, oh my God, this is the most evil television show has ever been created,
right.
because there's so many tropes, so many. It's like with a show like Dallas or Dynasty,
Wow. Yeah.
those kind of, there was like the good guys and then the bad guys. The show like Succession, there's no good guys. It's all just vapid, selfish, stingy, rich, miserable, despicable people who would sell their grandmother out to make an extra 10 grand. And it's like that show, I remember it being promoted on HBO, and the showrunners are very well known, do great work. The acting is brilliant. I tried to watch it. I'm like, there's so much negative programming here. I'm going to unplug from this. I just can't do it. It's
So that's Rapid Rebirth. You've written
radical rebirth.
Radical Rebirth. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have. I mean, I don't know if I'll have all the links for 16 books, but, but what are you working on now? Like, it seems like this is a serial kind of thing. Like, you're gonna have one coming soon, or what are you working on?
Yeah. The new book is, working title is Millionaire in the Mirror.
Millionaire in the
Thesis
Mirror.
of the book is that you can go look in the mirror and there really will be a millionaire staring back at you. What do you have to change? What's the consciousness you have to develop? And then how do you create that holistic prosperity in your life?
Sure.
And then I have a new cohort of Breakthrough You, the coaching program that starts January 1st. Actually, we're going to probably start New Year's Eve for them. I want to do a special New Year's Eve, no alcohol celebration
Okay.
for, instead of the
Right.
usual garbage people do, where they make a bunch of noise to scare away their fears. I'm going to want to bring in the new year with positivity and light.
I love that, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
garbage, right? And I've done a
yeah,
plenty. I've done plenty of it, and I thought I was having a great time when it was happening. But yeah, I mean, it's just wrecking shop right before I'm supposed to start a new life in the next year. It's like it's counterintuitive, right? To just trash yourself the day before you got any big plans.
right.
Um, and so millionaire in the mirror. And you said several times it's this prosperity mindset and a holistic approach. And so you don't just tackle the vocation and the development of more revenue, right? But like, in the health space and then also the relationship space too, right? All the whole thing, you're going at
Yes.
all of it in the one. Wow.
Yeah. So in your show notes, if you would put a link to the Radical Rebirth book on Amazon, and then just put a link to my site, randygage.com. Right on the homepage, there's a free PDF I give away, The 7 Elements of an Abundant Life. And it's free. Just click the download thing, and it's a PDF. And it's just shows what I consider the 7 elements, which include, I think there's 4 quadrants of prosperity, right?
Hmm.
There's what I call resources. That would be the money and material things. There's one I call contribution or significance, because there will come a point where you reach a certain level of success, and then it's like, okay, I have all the toys, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I'm a car guy. I mean, at one time I had 9 different Vipers, right? I had a different colors, same model Vipers, so that when I went to dinner, I could make sure that my car matched my shoes. I mean, and I've had the Bentley Continental GT and the Aston Martin and the everything. I mean, I've spent millions of dollars on exotic cars because that's a car thing, right? But there's a point where you say, okay, the guy he would come to, had a guy who came every Monday to service my cars and wash them. And, I'd say, well, actually, this week I only drove these 2. The other ones haven't even left the garage, so don't worry. And I'm like, that was what was happening before I went on that sabbatical. I just kind of came to the belief, like, do I own these things or do they own me?
Right. Right.
And I
Right.
just
Right.
realized I had too many things. I'm a watch whore, right? I like fashion. I design my own clothes even. I have stuff, but I had like 250 watches.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and the thing is, like, now I wear a watch like once a year because I'm going to some black tie event and I've got a cool watch that I think will pop the tux or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like I don't even wear a watch anymore because I got my phone. So why do I have 250 watches? Isn't just a weight on me? And so when I went on the sabbatical, I sold or gave away, I can't even just tell you, millions of dollars worth of possessions that they didn't serve me anymore.
Sure. I find that fascinating too. Do you feel like that's typical
I do.
to
I do.
yeah,
I see it.
you see that a
Yeah.
lot like
I see it with the people I work with. That's what attracts a lot of them. Like, I make it sound like everybody at the higher levels come in as an addict and hates their spouse and their kids. It's not that way. A lot of them, they find their way to me because they do have all the toys, all the vacation, all the status, all the respect. And they're looking for, okay, how do I contribute?
mm,
How
yeah.
can I pay this forward? How can I mentor younger people in my space? How can I share the wisdom I've gained along the way? I have a charity that is near and dear to my heart that I would like to make into a movement. And it's the process I call moving from success to significance. And know that, because significance isn't about the money, significance is about the contribution and the legacy. It's why, when Samuel, my assistant, he buzzed your podcast by me. What do you think? It's called the Next Fix, and it's principally about addiction. And I'm like, yes, book me on it, because there's going to be people who need to hear my story that day. That was the one day. That's the story they needed to stay clean for one more day. So book it.
I think it's so the priorities, it fascinates me how they change, right? And so there's a person who pursues something. For me, it was I had pursued happiness. That was what I was all about. It's like happiness, right? And then as I had found it, right, or at least I thought I did, I found out it was very fleeting. And I was like, this isn't really what it's all cracked up to be. And then when I started gathering wisdom, I realized that it wasn't about happiness. That's a very fleeting pursuit. And then it was about joy and significance, right? And spreading message and helping and thinking of others too. I find that so peculiar that no matter what level of, you know, I guess, cash or whatever kind of resources you want to measure, like, I think in the end, we all kind of desire that missing element. But maybe it's not missing. Maybe it's not missing. Maybe it's there, but we start to put more priority on the significance and sharing the message. And we start to think about others more rather than like, having, 250 watches. Like, what the hell's the point of this? You know what I mean? Or like, why am I just seeking out happiness for myself nonstop? Right? It does nobody else any good, right? Like, I'm like, there's got to be something else. Like, there's something else that's more. And so I think that significance is a very good way it's a more noble pursuit, right? Than some of the other
And
shit that we've done.
significance is a very good avenue to becoming happier.
Right. As a result, yeah, in pursuing responsibility and service, I've gotten more happiness as a result than all of the cocaine.
For sure. For sure. I believe that.
Yeah. And so, listen, Randy, yeah, you've been an absolute pleasure, man. I'm excited about this cohort, a new style of New Year's partying, and of course, Millionaire in the Mirror, right? Millionaire in the Mirror, and I'll have links for everybody to check it out, and of course, your website, which I did check out, right? And I think that your program, from the apprentice to the alchemist to the anarchist and all that, like, I think it's a very cool layout. And I think that hearing your story again and how transparent, how you've battled addiction or substance abuse 2 different times in your life, And I think you're a model for what is maybe a better pursuit, man. So I truly appreciate your time, brother. Thank you for being on.
Well, thanks for inviting me on. I love the whole vibe of what you're doing, and it's been a wonderful chat.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's been another episode of The Next Fix. We'll catch you on the next one.